You're watching South Asia Newsline and have the top stories we are tracking for you on Monday, the 4th of August. Philippines President Marcos Jr. arrives in India to boost bilateral cooperation. Pakistan extends crackdown on Baloch activist Mahrang Baloch back in police custody. And FIFA conducts talent identification camps for Afghan women's refugee team. And now for all the details. In an aim to boost bilateral ties, Philippines President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Monday arrived in New Delhi for a 5-day state visit to India. The visit, which is the first by President Marcos, comes at the invitation of India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and at the time when both countries are celebrating the 75th year of establishing diplomatic relations. Before arriving in India, in a departure statement, the Philippines president described India as a valued friend of the Philippines, citing centuries-old cultural ties dating back to pre-colonial times. There is much potential for cooperation with India that will mutually benefit our peoples, Marcos was quoted as saying by Philippines state-run news agency PNA. The Philippines president will be accorded a ceremonial welcome later on Tuesday, following which he is scheduled to hold delegation-level talks with PM Modi. He will also meet his Indian counterpart Draupadi Murmu, following which he will emplain for India's IT hub Bengaluru to meet industry leaders. He will conclude his visit on Friday, emplaining for Manila. And in yet another move highlighting Pakistan's relentless crackdown on dissent, the custody of prominent Baloch activist Mahrang Baloch and other BYC leaders has been extended once again. A report.
In a continued crackdown by Pakistan on peaceful activism, an anti-terrorism court in Quetta in Balochistan has extended the police custody of Mahrang Baloch and other activists of Baloch Yakjehti Committee for another 20 days. Arrested in March after protesting alleged enforced disappearances, they face charges of attacking Quetta Civil Hospital and inciting violence, claims widely condemned by rights groups as baseless and politically motivated. Mahrang has been held under the controversial Section 3 of the Maintenance of Public Order, a colonial-era law often used to detain activists without trial. Her custody has been extended repeatedly since March despite a lack of evidence. Prominent activist Sami Dean Baloch accusing the judiciary of enabling state repression. Taking to X, she called the continued detentions a sign of Pakistan's legal and moral bankruptcy. Though the BYC is not banned, Mahrang has been added to Pakistan's list of proscribed individuals, raising concerns over arbitrary blacklisting. In May, the Balochistan High Court rejected petitions for their release, reinforcing critics' claims of systemic suppression of dissent in Balochistan.
And Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian met in Islamabad on Sunday, pledging to boost bilateral trade to $10 billion and deepen cooperation in combating terrorism. Reports suggest during the Iranian leaders' two-day visit, both leaders signed agreements across key sectors, including energy, climate change, tourism, law and justice, and information technology. Sharif, during a joint press briefing, reiterated support for Iran's peaceful nuclear program under the UN Charter and strongly condemned Israel's recent 12-day conflict with Iran, calling it unjustified. Pezeshkian thanked Pakistan for backing Iran during what he termed terrorist aggression by Israel and the United States. Both leaders also committed to strengthening border management and emphasized the shared resolve to prevent cross-border militant activity. The visit comes nearly after 1 year since both the countries exchanged missile strikes in January 2024. Despite past tensions, the two neighbors have kept diplomatic channels open, including discussions on Pakistan's possible role as a mediator between Tehran and Washington. Many Afghan refugee players are participating in planned talent identification camps in Sydney, organized by FIFA for the Afghan women's refugee team in Sydney as part of efforts to build a 23-player women's squad for friendly internationals this year, informed the World Soccer Body. FIFA in May approved the formation of the Afghan refugee team with former Scotland and Celtic forward Pauline Hamill as their coach. After Taliban takeover in 2021, many players from the women's national team fled the chaos-hit state over fears of persecution by the Taliban. These players have been fighting for their right to play internationally again after the Taliban-controlled Afghan Football Federation banned women's sports, which requires recognition by a national federation to compete internationally. Hamill will announce a 23-player squad after all three camps, with the team then taking part in FIFA-approved friendlies later this year. I think when you speak to the girls, you can get some kind of understanding of what they have gone through to come to this point, and I think that's always going to be a part of who they are, said team coach Pauline Hamill.
Well, being a refugee in a country is a big challenge, and football, sports helping us. I know we cannot play for our national team, but we can still represent as a name of Afghanistan for refugee team, and this is a big impact for my sport life. And also this project have a big impact in all of the refugee girls, not just in Australia, in Europe, and even in Afghanistan. Maybe they can have an opportunity, a future opportunity to be part of this project and to get good experiences from this project, because this project helped us to learn new things.
The Muhammad Yunus-led interim government in Bangladesh is set to unveil the July declaration on 5th of August, marking the first anniversary of the student-led uprising that ultimately forced former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina into exile last year. This declaration seeks to give formal and constitutional recognition to the 2024 mass movement which toppled Hasina's Awami League regime. The interim government plans to present this historic document as a symbol of the popular revolution. The uprising, led by the group Students Against Discrimination, was sparked by years of growing dissatisfaction with Hasina's administration. The movement demanded not only justice but also fundamental political change. Now the National Citizens Party, the political wing of the students' group, has demanded the complete abolition of the 1972 Mujibist constitution, which they argue was drafted to serve a one-party state and no longer reflects the aspirations of a democratic Bangladesh. However, constitutional experts warn that dismantling the country's founding legal framework without a clear replacement risks creating political instability. Moving on, after Sri Lanka's cabinet approved a draft bill to scrap the special privileges provided to former presidents and their spouses recently, Trade Minister Vasantha Samarsinghe said that the government will now proceed with the abolition of pensions for members of parliament with the objective to reduce the privileges granted to politicians in the nation. Samarsinghe further said that the move is a part of the broader effort to reduce the financial burden on the public, informed Newswire. Any former MPs who genuinely lack a source of income are free to apply for benefits under the Aswasuma welfare program, just like any other citizen in need, the minister further added. Former JVP MP Nandana Gunathilaka, in a Facebook post recently, expressed concerns over the proposal and said that he had committed himself full-time to politics, losing his job and now relying solely on the MP pension for survival, and that such decisions could lead to serious consequences for those who devoted their lives to public service. That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Good night.